Welcome to Leadershipisation, all things leadership. My name is Beth Bergen. I'm a global leadership and communication coach. My goal and what I do best is I build influential leaders. I work with executives, I work with managers, I work with business owners, and often I'm privileged to work with their teams as well. So, you can find me here most Tuesdays at 1 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. Leadership and leaders. What I find with all the people that I engage with, especially when I'm working with teams, what I find is that it's really easy to believe that we need a title in order to lead. We need a title like we've got to be a deputy director or an executive manager or a CEO or a team leader or a business owner, that we need to be all of those things or one of those things rather in order to be able to lead. Imagine what if you could lead without actually having a title? What if it's possible to lead from any chair in the organization or the business that you're in? Remember, at its most basic, that leadership is the ability to be able to influence and to guide individuals to a common goal. And we do this by shaping their behavior, shaping the actions of others. We do it by doing things ourselves that contribute to the overall direction of the organization or the team. We can do it for a moment, or we can do it for a really long time. I want you to think about some leaders that we might be familiar with. You know, there's the awesome William Wallace in Braveheart. Who remembers Mel Gibson playing that role? He did a fantastic job of it. And he was really romanticized in that role. His leadership was romanticized. And it turned out, probably the truth was that he was a leader with a title. I think maybe he was even a knight. If you've ever watched the movie Coach Carter, Ken Carter in that, you know, he was a leader who worked against the tide. He was a coach, but he still had others who had more authority than him in the whole school system. So, you know, he shut his students out of the gym. He shut his team members out of the gym and focused or helped them to focus and realize that those high grades were really important. You know, the other hero that we might see in the movies, if you're thinking of them, is Moana in the movie Moana. She makes her own choice to take an absolutely daring mission to save her people. We find leaders in surprising places. Think about Captain Jack Sparrow in the role that Johnny Depp just absolutely made his own. He was a rogue. He had absolute charisma, but he was flexible in his thinking. And most importantly of all, he had this ability to inspire and to influence his crew. The thing to remember when we look at someone like Captain Jack Sparrow is that when we are leading, remembering that this doesn't have to be with a title. So when we are leading, we can actually lead positively or negatively. It doesn't have to be, or I shouldn't say it that way. Leadership isn't necessarily a positive thing. And some of you, no doubt, will have worked under the influence of a negative leader. The other one to think about is Rafiki in The Lion King. He was pretty wise. He was a bit shambolic. He was a mystic. He was a guide. But the lesson that Simba learned from him was that change was part of life's journey, because Rafiki brought that lesson to him. He guided him to that. What this boils down to is the very best way to lead is by example. If you want the respect of those in your organization, that you need to be willing to lead. And the best way to lead is by example. And you don't have to have the title. If you don't have that title, maybe what you're thinking about is, so how do I influence or how do I lead by example? Well, I've got 4 or 5 strategies here that you could apply straight away. So just let me run through those. So the first one is this: be proactive and take the initiative. This is all about being courageous and jumping in. It's about having an opinion because you've been asked to have an opinion. So be prepared to go beyond, be enthusiastic, be willing to take on new projects and do new things. Offer to help others and be there as a resource for them. Be willing to step in and propose solutions to things so that you're there solving problems rather than creating problems or identifying problems and handing them on to somebody else to deal with. Yeah. So that's the first one. Be proactive and take that initiative. The second one is this: you're wanting to demonstrate your leadership? Be a team player. Be a team player, collaborate, share ideas, contribute to a positive team dynamic, communicate openly and with respect, and support the success that everyone as an individual in the team is having, as well as supporting the success of the team. Okay. Number 3, make sure that what you're doing contributes to a positive work environment. Because what I love about positivity and passion is that they're contagious. And if you've got that positive work environment, then it'll be more productive. You can be a role model by demonstrating your values and your behaviors. Importantly, staying calm when things get tough and demonstrating that you've got some resilience is a great way to contribute towards a positive team environment. Like, it's not like, oh no, everything's going wrong all the time. It's actually being solutions focused and looking at, what can I do? What can I contribute here? What can we work through that's going to keep us all positive and focused on our tasks? Yep. Okay. Number 4, build influence and trust. Often when we don't have a leadership role, a formal leadership role, we forget that we're going to need to build that influence and build that trust. So how do we do that? Well, we start by doing what we say we're going to do. Now, I'm pausing there to give you time to absorb that, because you would be amazed at how often people don't do what they say they're going to do. And some of you may have worked in teams where that happens all the time. Yep, I'll make that decision, and the decision never gets made. So demonstrate that you are going to do what you say that you'll do. Also, demonstrate your competence and your reliability. Because if what you're doing is demonstrating those things, you're setting yourself up as a really valuable resource for other people in the team. It's also important that you're coachable and that you're open to new ways of doing things. Now, we've talked about this before, so it's being willing to learn how to do new things and also willing to unlearn how you've done them previously. So that whole learning and unlearning is tied up there in you being coachable. Finally, what sits under this building influence and trust, and this is something that, if we're going to be self-aware, if we're going to show up as a leader, we actually need to be really deliberate about our actions. So we're thinking about the impact that our actions are going to be having all the time. Yeah. I really like number 4 because that, I want you to be influential, whether you have that title or not. Your behavior will determine the influence, the trust, and potentially the respect that you have in the team that you're working with, particularly, oh, well, yeah, not only amongst your peers, but also amongst your leaders, your managers, and the people higher up the chain. Okay, number 5, utilize your strengths. Utilize your strengths. So showcase your expertise. Put your hand up for things that showcase your expertise. Identify what your own strengths and key skills are so that you can work to those. Be prepared to offer some guidance to others, particularly new people coming in. Like I've been in situations where new people coming in have left a job because the people who are already working there are not prepared to share anything with them, offer any guidance, offer any insight. They just make their life damn difficult. You don't want to be one of those people. You want to be bringing new people forward, sharing and providing guidance. And that then also creates opportunities for others to learn. So don't just be holding on to your knowledge thinking, I'm just sitting over here doing my stuff. I'm not a leader, but I'm just going to stay here. That's not cool. It's actually really important for you to be making sure that what you're doing is sharing and guiding others and giving them opportunities to learn. And what you're then going to be doing is influencing and inspiring others to follow your lead, even if they don't have a title. Now, something about this always resonates with everyone. Will you be able to inspire others and influence others immediately? No, you won't. No, you won't. You might remember earlier that I said be deliberate about your actions. Nothing will change if you don't change. Nothing will change if you don't change. So finally, we've got number 6, which is be deliberate about choosing to lead. Be deliberate about choosing to lead. Now, this is kind of same, but different as being deliberate about your actions. You're choosing to lead. Make sure that you're deliberately choosing to lead and implementing a whole lot of those things that we've talked about today. Take on those new roles and responsibilities. Share with others. Welcome others. Contribute to that positive team environment. All of those things are really important, and be deliberate about doing that. Now, some reminders in here. Some reminders. I know that if you're an aspiring leader, you've heard what I've said today, and you're thinking, oh, okay, she wants me to be deliberate about it. I'll get out there and I'll do that. I'll start thinking about how I can utilize my skills. I'll start doing some extra projects to showcase my skills. Firstly, first reminder, don't take on too much. Don't take on too much. Because for every single thing that you're saying yes to, there's potentially something that you're actually saying no to. So don't take on too much. We don't need you exhausting yourself. That's the first thing. The second reminder is this: all leaders need to learn how and when to say no. It's perfectly okay to say no. I haven't got the space for that. Let's explore how I could fit that in for you. Are there some things that I can move along here or, give to someone else to do? Okay. Notice that these all have a bit of a common theme to them. The next one is, it feels really good to please people. It feels really good to please people. However, when you spread yourself too thin and you don't feel valued or appreciated, that's likely to lead to a whole lot of frustration on your part. Yeah. We don't want you feeling frustrated because you're absolutely exhausted. Okay. So those are your reminders. All right. I've given you today an insight into how you can begin to lead and influence without necessarily having a title. This is some of what we cover in my Say It Smarter and my Leadership and Communication Accelerator programs. If you're interested in hearing more about those, reach out. In the meantime, if you've got some comments or some questions about today's presentation, pop something in the platform that you're watching on, and we'll get back to you. I'm happy to answer those questions. And if you're watching this on replay, I would love it if you would put #replay. Thank you so much for watching. Look forward to seeing you again next week. Bye now.